How should the Chevra Kadisha do a tahara for a trans person? Not an easy question at all. Normally, a male Chevra Kadisha does it for men, a female for women. What do you do in the case of a trans person? This is a question I received from our rabbi, one of our rabbis in Manhattan, and it's currently being discussed and debated in the New York Board of Rabbis. Now, the first point is that any discussion of this has to involve the trans community. Nothing about us without us. You cannot be discussing such issues without members of the trans community as part of the conversation. Point number one. Point number two is that we're mostly talking here about questions of policy, not halakha. In general, issues relating to tahara are almost all issues of minhag, not issues of halakha. So what should be the approach here? Normally, the reason a female Chevra Kadisha does it for women and men for men is because of issues of sensitivity, of tzniut, of modesty, of inappropriateness, of comfort. You don't want men handling the genitalia of women and women handling the genitalia of men. That's the basic point. Now, what do you do in this case? If it's let's say, a trans woman, and a trans woman who still has male genitalia. So for a female Chevra Kadisha to do it would be discomforting and, according to many, inappropriate, but certainly discomforting for them to be handling the genitalia of a man. For men to do it would be a serious denial, rejection, seen as such, of the identity of the dead, and therefore a serious compromise of the kavod hamet, of the honor of the dead, and a rejection of trans identity in general, an erasure of trans identity in the trans community. So what to do? Here's my suggestion. My suggestion is that you start with a female Chevra Kadisha. That is fundamentally the approach. This is a woman. You acknowledge the identity of her as a woman, and you have a female Chevra Kadisha. But the male genitalia is covered. That's a question of genitalia, not of identity. And when everything else is done, a man or a male chevra comes in, does the male genitalia, steps out, and the rest is done by women. And therefore, you affirm the person's identity. The policy reflects the person's identity. But when it comes to specific issues of genitalia from a perspective of comfort and appropriateness, that is done by men. So I hope that this is a suggestion that adds to the conversation. These are initial thoughts. This is not a psak halacha, but I hope that this is an approach that can give some thought to and reflection on, of course, with conversations of bringing in all opinions, and particularly those of the trans community.